Welcome back to our coverage of the European LCS, where it's time for a highly anticipated rematch between H2K and Fnatic. The last time they met was in the spring playoffs. H2K got absolutely overrun by Fnatic's aggressive style, but tonight we're expecting a much closer series. Let it be known that I asked you guys if you wanted to do the Broxa or Jankos poses, because I thought that was really funny when Stress and Trevor did that beforehand, but you guys didn't want to.
Because they already did it. We don't want to be copycats, especially not copy Trevor and Stress. Like, come on, Henning and me, we are way above that.
Or you don't have the bicep to back it up, but...
I mean, the jacket hides it. It's in there somewhere.
Let's move on to the match, although this is also very interesting, but it is a very interesting one. And as I said, Henning, the last time these two teams met was when Fnatic beat H2K in the playoffs. So how far do you think these two teams are apart in level right now?
Was it 3-0 then? I don't think it's going to be a 3-0, partly because it's the best out of three, but also because the teams are a lot closer.
That's why we pay him the big bucks.
High-level analysis right here. No, but I think H2K and Fnatic are really close. It's going to be, I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I'm expecting to see a series similar to the Fnatic G2 one, which ended 2-1. And was a very close one.
What particularly in terms of that series? Are you expecting a slow game, fast game, a macro-focused game, a skirmish-heavy game?
Basically a close game with aggressive early games from both teams. I think that Fnatic is going to go for the winning lanes, try to get the counter pick mid, get Caps into a good matchup, and try to snowball winning lanes.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because the Fnatic style has been to put out aggressive moves early, snowball the games as well as they can, split push, but it does seem like they're losing more games with the Cannon, with the Shen. Roccat last week, that wasn't the best showing for them. So, Official, do you think that they need to find some new ideas? Is it time?
Well, I think the style is definitely still good and fine. I just think it's easier and easier for teams to kind of prepare against it because it is very much the same style. They're very clear pick priority as well. Like, it's Cannon open, you pick Cannon for Reckless. Don't even swap the top even if it's a good matchup. So I think teams are just learning more and more what to do against it. Calling, you know, missing AD carry, putting lane wards in the late game so they see Reckless sneak into that lane to try and go for that gank. And these kind of adaptations that Roccat showed, we should see from H2K as well. So it is a bit harder for Fnatic to just consistently roll over teams with it, but I still think it's a good style. I just want to see if they can do more without the Shen specifically.
The Schengen agreement.
Well, the Shen technically, the Kennen and Shen that work so well against G2 because that has been one of the key picks for Soaz, and he needs to kind of find something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, if Fnatic just keeps going for the same style, I mean, if you always do the unexpected, eventually people are going to expect it. And especially a team like H2K, we know Prol is a very experienced coach. I'm absolutely sure that he's going to come into this series with a plan.
But here's the caveat.
Yeah, because I said the same thing for playoffs, you know, in Spring Split. And I'm like, surely H2K have watched this play style and they are ready mentally and can communicate enough in-game to kind of prevent these like surprise gangs and Brox's early game from really snowballing against them. And then everything fell apart from H2K. It was so bad from H2K that people after that series said that H2K sucked for the entire spring split based on
unfair.
1-5.
Which was unfair.
But it was so one-sided in favor of Fnatic. And I want to trust a bit in H2K's preparation, but they can definitely still fall apart and just get snowballed on.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens, but now there's a debate to be had about, are these the two teams that are currently the best in the league fighting versus each other? And maybe we'll be wiser after this series, but what is sure is that they are the two teams with the strongest early game right now, and that will be very interesting to see how they face off and who is able to snowball better or who is able to obstruct the other's early game.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think it's really cool that H2K is less now about the slow laning phase into just some tower pushes and more about super aggressive like plays in lanes with Jankos joining in with these lanes here. So they are very fast paced suddenly, and that's how they get the big advantage. While Fnatic, they trade towers so often. They get the most early towers, but they also give away the most early towers because that's kind of, they just want a ton of gold in the game for both teams, funny enough.
Yeah, just looking at that tower stat, I think it's the most interesting one. Fnatic giving up 1.5 towers at 50 minutes compared to 0.2 from H2K, so that's definitely a big difference.
That's just 2 bricks.
Yeah, and giving up the tower. Giving up the towers on both sides early and also benefits Fnatic style really well because ganking those sidelines are so much easier when the tower is already down.
Yeah, absolutely. So we see Dylan Falco there, second week with the team, hopefully.
0% win rate.
Yeah, 0% win rate. Okay, guys, we have to move on to the casters in a second. So predictions and a quick explanation why. Henning?
I said that I think this series is going to be similar to the one where Fnatic played against G2, and I think the score is going to be the same, 2-1 Fnatic. I think that their style is going to be too much for H2K to deal with.
I am, for the last time, going to put my trust in H2K's prep and communication in-game and say they take it 2-1 because I need to see Fnatic show what else they have if that Shen is banned and if they can still utilize the full split push comp without it.
I'm excited to see what happens. We got two of the best teams in Europe ready to fight for victory on the Rift. Medic, take it away.
Thank you very much, Shox. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Aaron Medic Chamberlain, joined here by my partner in crime, Andrew Vedius-Day.
Hello, good sir. How are you?
Are you doing accents already? I was hoping we could wait for a little bit longer before you started saying everything was brilliant. Brilliant. Oh, it's so grand over here.
Can we carry on with the lineups?
Let's see which players are hitting the Rift tonight. Starting on the blue side with Fnatic. In the top lane is Soaz. Their jungler is Broxah. Mid lane Caps, AD carry Reckless. Support Jezzes and their coach, Dylan Falco.
Certainly it sounds like there are a lot of Fnatic fans, but it's going to be a tough time for them as they go up against H2K. With Auto Omni in the top lane, their jungler Jankos, mid lane of Featherman, AD carry Nuclear, their support Che, and coach Prolly.
Fan favourites seem to be Fnatic at the moment. No real surprises there, Vedius, but I know that you think this is the battle between the two best teams in Europe.
Yep. Right now, I think that Fnatic and H2K are performing the best out of all of our current European LCS teams. Fnatic, when they're allowed to play their style, they seem to be unstoppable. Even G2 could not find answers when they were allowed to get the Shen and the Cannon, which we heard Deficio talk so much about. And for H2K, they just seem so well-rounded. It just seems that when they're put under pressure, that's where they really seem to struggle.
Well, Fnatic have the blue side in game one, already having some bans coming out. Elise being taken away by H2K, Tom Kench by Fnatic. Now, I think the big question that everyone is asking is Fnatic gonna get Cannon? Is Fnatic gonna get Shen?
I'm pretty sure they'll be allowed to get Cannon. Bear in mind that they did lose with Cannon against Roccat, and while they definitely looked very dominant and still strong in that series, they ended up falling short, and it just felt that coming into game 3, Roccat had found the answers. So what can H2K learn from that series? It seems like banning away the Shen is certainly a development.
And Zakban on the blue side here from Fnatic, not willing to let that go through to the second rotation, means they're probably not going to pick it up first.
They're looking for a Thresh first pick, especially with the Tom Kench ban away as well. Looks like heavy priority, making sure that Jezzes can have that powerful support on the bottom lane.
There is the Thresh ban, take that one straight away. It does mean Cannon is left open for Fnatic if they want to solidify that power Pokemon down in the bottom lane for themselves. Still a few other options though. Galio, of course, on the card, something we haven't seen too much.
It's Fnatic, Medic.
I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Next you're gonna say, ooh, I bet that's a flex pick. It could also go top lane. Nope, that's gonna be Reckless's AD Cannon. The classic, the Fnatic style, but the Shen has been taken off. The Shen has been taken off the board. We'll have to see how well Fnatic have adapted since their loss without the Shen. H2K now, they have a few options. Lee Sin is available for Jankos. Also looking in terms of power picks, Ashe, very powerful AD carry, very popular over in LCK. In the last few weeks, we have seen her rise in popularity. This could be a good opportunity for H2K to early rotate it, or perhaps they try and grab themselves a powerful support right now, either in the form of Zyra, or maybe in the form of something like a Braum. We've even heard rumors of Tarik.
Actually going for the Caitlyn for themselves here. Nuclear, as you say, has played that Ashe, so was always on the cards. It's going to be a Caitlyn pick, and Fnatic immediately lock in the Kha'Zix for Broxah.
Having chatted with Maxlaw, he says that Kha'Zix is often a very good answer to the Lee Sin, very difficult for the Lee to trade in terms of the early skirmishes. And looking at this Camille, on this patch, she did get a few buffs. The passive's cooldown did end up getting reduced, and she got a bit more damage on her Q as well.
20% more.
20% more, so pretty significant.
And I'm so used to seeing Fnatic play Camille because Kikis played a huge amount in Challenger Series last split. He did used to scrim against Soaz as well, so I'm sure some of that counter has been...
Don't get baited,
Yeah, don't
fans.
do it, guys. Come on, I've fallen for this already. It's Lulu.
The first rule of casting is do not talk about hovers, because I
thought it was do not talk about casting.
The point of the Camille is that is a flex pick. That is the thing about Fnatic. We've seen Jezzes bringing out support, and it can be put up into the top lane depending on where Fnatic want to have their focus. Going for the Lulu means that there's the risk of an all-in bottom lane and answering as a counter, but you provide a lot of peel for your AD carry. Now, in terms of what is left on the board, a safe mid lane pick could be the Lucian or the Orianna. We know that as a mid laner, Febiven has had fantastic performances on that mid lane AD carry, quote unquote. And you can see just in terms of his stats, he is far and above the average of the rest of the LCS.
And they can still leave the last pick for him as well. He has that counter opportunity if they want. So pick top laner for Odoamne next and then have the last pick. Gragas being banned out alongside the LeBlanc by H2K. Fnatic have taken Fiora off the cards, which could indicate that they want that Camille up in the top lane.
Could very well be. But that's the bait and switch with Fnatic. You never really know. I feel like a safe bet. Oh, they are going to show that respect towards Lucian. They caught a glimpse of his stats on screen. They were like, yeah, no, we'll take that off you. Thank you very much. So I feel like that looking at what's available, Syndra still a very powerful pick. Febiven has demonstrated his proficiency on that champion too. You could also go for something a little bit safer, a little bit less lane dominant in the Orianna if you wanted to.
That is the Rumble pick for Odoamne up towards the top side. Did, of course, get a few changes on this patch. Sure, we'll talk about those more when we get into the game itself, but still being a priority pick up towards the top lane. Fnatic now need to look towards mid and probably support, although they could still be looking for a top laner of their own. In fact, they could still be looking for an AD carry of their own. I'm going to respect the flex from Fnatic.
Not a flex.
That's still a flex.
That's still a flex. I think that is a mid lane Galio, a support Camille, an AD carry. No,
he hasn't locked it. He hasn't locked it. Don't get baited.
Oh, I fell for my own trap.
Yes. Although Corki would make a lot of sense. Great wave clear, very strong into most picks in the mid lane.
So, the assumption is that this is a Corki mid, Galio top, AD carry Cannon, support Camille, jungle Kha'Zix. That's what I feel.
The only one I'm sure of is
the Kha'Zix, yeah.
And Box even locked it in for himself just to make it even more clear. It could, of course, be a Galio support as well. H2K will be working around this. We have to expect that Corki to be mid and Febiven. Oh, come on, do it. Yes! You beauty! Come on!
Locking in the Zed. Febiven saying, you know what? We have AP damage in the top lane. We've got the Lulu for peel. I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling ready.
Feeling spicy. Remember a former H2K mid laner in the form of Ryu not have the best of time on Zed all of the time?
He was still a really good Zed.
He was still a really good Zed, that's true. Febiven, you're trying to channel his inner Ryu for this game.
So looking at the compositions, when you see H2K, you do see a lot of team fight and siege power with the Rumble and the Caitlyn. But it's going to be very much about trying to get Zed to a point where he cannot be matched in the 1 versus 1. There are very few answers on the side of Fnatic to be able to deal with Febiven if he even gets a slight lead. So paired up with Jankos on the Lee Sin, I want to see some early investment in the middle lane. Or set up this wingman duo squad of them roaming around the map trying to get him snowballing.
As we are about to get onto the Summoners with Vedius, I want to take your mind on a beautiful journey. Throughout history, there have been stories of great battles. Warriors testing their mettle against mighty foes. Look back to 840 BC, an army of 300 Spartans held back the hordes of the Persian Empire at Thermopylae. In 1066, the French fought the English armies in the Battle of Hastings. In the Third Age of Middle-earth, the Uruk-hai fought the Rohan at Helm's Deep. And today, in Berlin, we see H2K match their wits against Fnatic.
It's going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. It's going to be a great game as we get onto the Summoners Rift. Fnatic going for a composition that has worked for them time and time again. Single-style superstars, you may say, Vedius.
Yes.
In fact, I said it.
That is, in fact, what you said.
Yes.
What they've done is Fnatic have said, ah ha ha, you may take away our Shen, but we have a Galio that can do the same thing. Reckless can look to be as aggressive as he wants. He can dive into the middle of these team fights because he feels confident that he has the support from Soaz in the top lane. And when you look at that composition, it's a little bit all over the place, right? This is not a conventional composition anywhere else in the world. This is very classic Fnatic style. And you have a lot of skirmish power with the Kha'Zix and the Cannon. Camille, great way for starting off a lot of fights, picking off these isolated targets. And you have a fair amount of wave clear with the Corki. So you have a bit of everything, but not really a clear goal as to what you want to do. Your team fighting is decent thanks to the Galio, But it's still like, it's a very difficult composition to exactly identify like what the true goals is, because like they have 280 carries, they have a big tank in the top lane. It's a little bit all over the shop. They
do seem to have a lot of damage just in the lineup as well.
That's for sure, yes.
Sometimes with Galio lineups or Galio compositions, we worry about the damage from the rest of the map, but they've got Kha'Zix, got Corki, who, Power of Evil, just showed us how much damage that Corki can do.
Oh, for sure.
And then they've got Reckless, who I'm sure will go Frozen Malice and get all of his pure damage items. Across the history of the LCS, Fnatic and H2K have butted heads 29 times. Fnatic slightly ahead, 16 wins to 13 losses for them. H2K will be trying to redeem themselves.
And bear in mind, they were 13-13 when they met in the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
And that is where Fnatic got themselves that 3-0. So H2K looking to get a little bit of revenge, because as you heard Deficio saying on the desk, opinions of H2K are actually very low, and it's largely based on that series. Like, even today, when I made that tweet about how I feel these are the two best teams in Europe right now, people are saying, do you guys not remember the last time they met? Like, Fnatic demolished H2K, but this is a very different H2K from what that was. These guys, they seem to have an amazing understanding of how to play around the map, how to set up around the objectives. Just, we need to track Jankos' vision throughout this game, because it is just so impressive the way in which H2K are able to just control areas when they have an eye on what they want to take away.
So let's talk about Jankos as well, because he went for a topside clear, then backed and is now looking towards his blue buff. What does this spell in terms of his early ganking? Is he looking for ganks, or is he just going to power farm himself up?
I think he's looking to try and gank up to level 4. His priority is going to be getting an element of vision towards the bottom half of the map, because Nuclear and Che will naturally be pushing into the Cannon and Camille. But he's not too afraid of early ganks because it's a Kha'Zix. Usually Kha'Zix farms up to 6, gets a point in the ultimate, tries to get that evolution on the Q, and then you have a little bit more damage, a little bit more skirmishing power. But until then, that is where Lee Sin has a little bit more early game power. He has a little bit more tools to set up for early plays, but it's hard, because what lanes can he really gank? There's no reliable CC down in the bottom lane. Mid lane is a Zed, playing up against an exhaust Corki, and in the top lane, it's Rumble versus Galio, so they're pretty much just going to spend their time farming away, not really doing that. So the options for Jankos aren't exactly easy. He's just going to have to find opportunities where Fnatic are a little bit overextended and try and force a play, probably with his level 6 ultimate.
At the moment, he will spot out Broxah with that Scryer's Bloom, means that he can get control over the Rift Scuttler as well. Lee Sin, if he can land a Sonic Wave, wins the trades into the Kha'Zix. Both these teams thus far undefeated in Game 1 of the series. Both of them, of course, losing 1 series each.
Someone has to lose today, though.
It's true. It's true. Good fact.
Good
well
fact.
Done.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Jankos coming towards the mid lane, caps will Valkyrie away, and this is one of the reasons Corki, with his buffs, will rise back into meta. He's just so safe in that mid lane.
We don't have time to talk about that, because have a look in the top lane.
Here comes Broxah. Odo's going to get taunted up with the Shield of Durant. Does still have the flash if he wants to get away. The Winds of War comes out as well. Broxah looking for his prey. Jump away, jump back in. Odo is going to be first blood to Fnatic.
We talked about how Broxah probably not going to be looking for many early game plays. But he sees Odo overextended in the top lane. Very pushed up wave. Very easy, without any vision in the river, for Broxah to just walk on up and take that first blood.
And means Odo burns his flash and uses his teleport to get back into the lane. Still seeing triple Doran's here from Soaz. Even with Doran's ring having that mana regeneration made into a unique passive, it's just going to go get all of that extra mana and, of course, the health that you get from it. Jazzes jumps in onto Che in the bot lane. Reckless looking for the trade. Tactical sweep from Jazzes will force Che down, but Nuclear can just turn around and harass out the Fnatic bot lane.
And the interesting thing about these two teams is that, while sure, for the side of Fnatic, they have a little bit more of a scaling composition, and for the side of H2K, they have the Lee Sin, but not many great lanes to really gank. These are two of the most active teams in terms of the early game, and for Broxah, he is heavily involved in a lot of the first bloods that Fnatic are able to get. This dude is a big contributing factor to the early game success that we often see from Fnatic, and you can see from the drop down, 70% first blood participation for Broxah. Second among junglers in Europe, and Jankos, for H2K, hasn't really been he doesn't really have the same reputation he used to have of being the first blood king.
Yeah, he's lost that moniker across this split. In 4th position, just sitting behind 3 other people. That's what 4th position means.
Yes.
But yeah, Jankos really hasn't had the impact in the early game that he perhaps had in previous splits. And maybe that's why people are underestimating H2K to a degree as well. You have to remember, H2K have only lost to Unicorns of Love thus far this split, a very strong team. And you look at the other side, Fnatic lost to Roccat, G2 have lost 2 series. They are challenging for that top spot, and they need to prove it over these next few weeks of intergroup play. This is their chance to shine as the best or one of the best teams in Europe.
Well, Yanko is trying to get a bit of revenge on the Broxer.
Yeah, that's a golf clap there, guys. Well done.
But look, Jankos now has control over the jungle because bot lane is pushing, Caps has gone back to base. This gives the freedom for Jankos to get a bit of deep vision down, and with the level advantage Jankos has over his jungle counterpart, he can freely look to continue with his aggression.
I think he got that.
He did.
Look at that, he even raised his arm in triumph as well on the little camera. Like, yeah, guys, come on.
Small victories, they matter.
Let's talk about this mid lane as well, though, Vedius, because it's Caps into Forbidden. It's a matchup for the ages. 2 of the strongest mid laners in Europe, and Forbidden has gone for a champion that is known to be able to make these outplays. Can he do that into Caps?
Let's not forget that Febiven really made a name for himself on this champion. This is where he earned the reputation of becoming the God Slayer. He solo killed Faker twice on Zed, so this is a bit of a famous, well-known champion for him, and he has for a long time been considered one of the best mid laners in Europe. Ever since there's this big meme, you know, like between us cast being like, oh, are we gonna get 2015 Febiven back? But even in the beginning of 2017, he was still looking good. Upon joining H2K, things seemed to be changing for him. He was a really big contributing factor. And for Caps, he has come into his own this split. He seems to have grown a lot. He seems to realize that it's not his job to be able to carry every game. And since he's stopped trying so hard to be a carry, that's resulted in him being a massive carry, right? Like, he's just been so much more reserved. He's shown so much more respect towards his opponent. And both of them have demonstrated time and time again their just ability to mechanically outplay their opponent. Febiven getting multiple solo kills down onto Exile, Caps being able to outplay Perks once again. These two really coming into their own.
Yeah, and they're actually rated 1st and 2nd in a lot of the key statistics for mid lane as well. Gold difference 1st and 2nd, damage per minute 1st and 2nd, and damage efficiency 1st and 2nd. And what we mean by damage efficiency is some teams like to give their gold towards a certain member, so Fnatic tend to give it towards Reckless, and when that gold goes on that member, you expect them to do more damage for the amount of gold they get. Damage efficiency rates how much damage are they doing for each bit of gold that they are acquiring.
Yep, and usually when you have a lot of gold, you're expected to do more damage. You can see that for both these mid laners, it's pretty good. It's pretty high, both 1st and 2nd, very efficient values, and these guys know exactly what to do with their gold. So a lot of high praise needs to be given to these 2 mid laners, and it is a large part as to why I do think that these 2 teams are the strongest in Europe right now. So as we transition towards the 10-minute mark, this is where I want to start seeing a little bit more action on the side of H2K. You can see that Febiven working towards what will likely be a very early Ghostblade. Lee Sin already completed the Warriors enchant. Let's see if we can get this Zed snowball. Let's see if we can get to a point where you can move off into a side lane and can start causing pressure for the side of Fnatic.
As you say, 10 minutes in, only 600 gold between the 2 teams. Che coming up towards mid here just to try and get some vision control. It is only a Cloud Drake. We are not as blessed as Quickshot and Stress with their Dragon priorities, all the Infernals and Mountains that they could have. It's probably the EULCS's Infernal quota done for the week already.
Or for the split, could also be the split.
Hopefully not.
We got
as much as I like Cloud Drakes, I don't want to see more of them.
I do like Cloud Drakes.
Give it, like here, an Infernal, you'd have Lee Sin fighting over it.
It is hot enough outside, thank you very much. I could really do with a brisk breeze.
That's just because you're standing next to me. Anyway, Caps in the mid lane, just going to clear out vision for himself.
You even got an applause for that.
Thank you all. Odo's just pushing up towards the top here as well. Something we haven't talked about too much is that top lane matchup. Galio, Winds of War can just push the lane, but Odo seems to be the one with the push potential and push priority in that lane.
So notice that Galio is still stacking Doran's rings, and on this patch, you can no longer stack the passes where you get mana back. However, it still gives you a base value of AP, which just synergizes nicely with Galio's Q. So he has a lot of pushing power. It still synergizes well with his lane. And to be honest, Galio, he's never really been a champion that suffered with mana issues, unlike someone like a Gragas, who may very well fall slightly out of the meta in the next few weeks. But let's see if Jankos...
Jump onto Broxah. That was a superb ultimate from Broxah to get himself away.
Very, very smooth. He knew exactly what was coming. He was going to get kicked into Febiven, who was likely going to squash him. But with the quick reflexes, Broxah able to slide his way out and is able to steal away the Raptors too. So definitely a bang for your buck right there, as Jankos continues to control the bottom half of the jungle.
But the thing is, like, Jankos has had good control over vision and is getting some deep wards into this red side jungle. Fnatic have good vision in the river, so they know Jankos is here, and you can see how safe they play because of it. Febiven actually takes the bad side of a trade there against Caps.
Yep. Very, very rough in the middle lane.
Is that what's expected to happen there?
In terms of this mid lane matchup, it's a very skill shot dependent matchup that we might have to be careful of as a TP happens down bottom.
Double TP is going to come in. There is the Hexag ultimatum onto Nuclear, looking for the trade. Reckless puts the slicing Maelstrom down, so is the Joy the Fray, but here comes the equalizer. What can H2K do to turn this one around? Reckless burning down. Nuclear and Che have escaped, so is looking for the re-engage. Corky's on his way down, but cannot get there in time. Jesus jumps in, regrets it straight away, and jumps straight on out.
So you can see Fnatic tried to make a play happen down bottom. They don't have the Shen ultimate like they typically do, so instead they have a TP deep within the lane, with which they use to try and get a flank behind H2K. But the fight very well may not be over, as Febiven just pops it to clear out the ward. So what we saw from that play was Fnatic trying to be proactive in the bottom lane. They know that that tower is going to go down, so they try and get themselves a kill so they can get themselves a little bit more control back in what is a losing lane. But unfortunately for them, they just don't have the damage to kill Nuclear, and with the arrival of Odo, they know that they're safe as Jankos makes his way to the bottom lane.
He's looking for the kill here. Will jump across the wall and actually going to get caught out by Reckless. Stunned up as well as Broxah jumps in. That's a dead Jankos. No escape for him. Fnatic secure their second kill of the game. Broxah's looking for more, so as jumps forward with the Justice Punch. Gets the flash, double taunt, Reckless there as well. Nuclear just about surviving, but not for long enough. So as will fall as well. They're going to dive onto Che. Here comes Jesus, and here is the rest of Fnatic. 3 kills to 1 for them.
And this was the play that Fnatic wanted to make happen down in the bottom lane. 3 very swift kills going in the favor of Fnatic, as a brief pause comes out down in the bottom lane.
Well, he paused it on a high, at least, for Fnatic. H2K perhaps have a slight moment just to regain their composure. We're going to have a look at that play once again in just a second. Before they do, Vedius, I want you to look at it and tell me just one thing. Did H2K stay around for too long?
Ooh, that's an excellent question. I feel like that they were in a prime position to be able to take that tower. It was only a few hits away. The thing is, I actually think that Soaz just played it very well, because rather than trying to wave clear, he actually went for an all-in onto Nuclear.
Okay,
right?
so let's have a look at that.
Yeah, so pay attention here. What you're seeing is Nuclear and Jay are not actually hitting the tower. They're trying to hit Soaz, which means that the entire minion wave gets cleared before Jankos can arrive. So he ends up taking 2-3 tower shots as Reckless arrives back into the lane. So I feel like that you should really give praise to Soaz in the way that not only he gets the double taunt here, but how he also plays the fight earlier on, setting this up to allow the punish for H2K, who you could argue did overstay, but really I just feel like their priority should have been on hitting the tower rather than on Song.
It's always difficult when there's a gargoyle standing up in your plate to hit the tower. He also has that Shield of Durand, of course, to get the taunt off. Fnatic taking an early lead here, 4 kills to 1 up. What's their next aim? What's their next objective here? Are they just looking for this bot lane tower and then they'll back away, or is this the start of a snowball for Fnatic?
Well, this is a really good situation for Fnatic to be in, because remember that they invest a lot of resources into Reckless. They often play around him in the bottom half of the map. Right? So once he gets ahead, then they start using him to siege onto other towers, and because of the utility that he provides, they can actually start making things happen around the map before Febiven can get to a point where he is unkillable and unstoppable. So what they'll now do is they'll take the bottom tier 1, likely that they'll just ignore the Cloud Drake. They realize that their bot tower is going down, so they want to try and get ahead on the play. They want to try and get that tempo advantage by moving Reckless and Jesus up to the top side, and then they can start hitting onto that tier 1 in the top lane. The thing is for H2K is they'll probably match it, and you'll end up having a little bit more of a slow lane, but now because of the gold advantage that Fnatic have, they can feel more confident about trying to force a play, especially if Caps utilizes that package and looks for a roam up top.
Broxah was just working his way through a mouse-related issue there. It's not Reckless. He's Definitely not an issue for Fnatic at the moment. He's playing Kennen. That's where the mouse joke comes out. Some people call Kennen a rat. I realize I probably needed to explain that joke to make sure people understood it. We are going to get back onto the Summoner's Rift in just a second as we unpause the game and get ready for more action between Fnatic and H2K.
So early lead going in favor of Fnatic. They are currently sitting at a scoreline of 4-1. Now, one thing we didn't take into consideration was the fact that Odo, I'm pretty sure what you're seeing on screen right now is a visual bug, because those TPs were definitely used, and it has not been 5 minutes yet.
No.
So
yeah,
almost
the TPs are not up at the moment.
Yep, almost certain that Odo does not have his teleport right now.
In fact, it's about 2/3 completed.
2/3 completed, there we go. So Odo, he just continued to apply pressure in the top lane. Good answer from Caps to move up, realizing that Featherman was not in the middle lane. So now the swap will come out from Fnatic. Interesting that they've actually kept Caitlyn down in the bottom lane to catch this farm. We'll slow things down a little bit for H2K, and they have to be mindful now as Fnatic will reach that top lane first.
It's interesting as well, because on the analyst desk, we were talking about how H2K tend to take towers and not lose towers. Fnatic tend to get kills and not lose kills. H2K tend to have less deaths in the early game. Fnatic here are just showing H2K up at their own early game, because they've been able to take that first tower. They've got 4 kills to 1, and they're going to dive onto Forbidden in the mid lane as well. Soaz jumps in, Caps actually flashes forward. That's a mighty amount of damage as Caps kills Forbidden.
Featherman uses his shadow aggressively onto Caps. He does not realize that Soaz is lying in wait right next to him. Therefore, he has to back away. Double buff mid laner, chasing down onto Featherman, using the big rocket 2 to secure that last kill, will result in a mid lane tower going in the favor of Fnatic.
Fnatic actually going to clear out all of those outer turrets now. 3 towers to 1 in their favor. They are 4,000 gold ahead of H2K, and they're going to go for the Rift Herald as well, looking for more towers if they can get it. Proxer has been spotted on a ward here if H2K want to try and contest. Looks like Jankos doesn't want to as he's over by his wolves.
And Fnatic just demonstrating time and time again how effective they are at being able to not only utilize the classic Fnatic comp, but also their ability to get an early lead and effectively snowball it. The solo lane kill was a bit of icing on the cake and has allowed Caps to get a 15-minute Trinity Force, which is resulting in a fair amount of damage.
Oh, Jankos goes in, Caps Valkyries away. The call of the queue for Jankos there. They do stop the Rift Herald there. Boxer was forced off.
I mean, there's always a bright side, right? I mean, you just lose 3 towers. You do get 1 in return down in the bottom lane.
At the moment, H2K needs to try and come out of this cage that Fnatic have locked them in. They'll be looking just fine if they can do it. They'll be Mr. Brightside indeed. Fnatic just going to continue to gain vision control around this river. And this is something we talked about a lot when we were discussing how this game was going to go, when we were hypothesizing Vedius. We said single style superstars for Fnatic. They are playing the same style once again with not too many changes. And it's working for them thus far. Jez is going to jump in. Hexagol Ultimatum onto Forbidden. Jankos misses the Cubit. He's going to jump the wall. They're going in for Caps. Exhaust down on Forbidden. Deathmark will proc. Soaz joins the fray. Here's the TP in though. Odo caught out. Gets the equalizer down. Gets 1 kill for himself. Look at Soaz though onto Che. Onto Jankos doing so much work. Nuclear's not here yet. Soaz might continue to chase in. Wins the war. Jez's jumps. Wild Growth comes out. Polymorph as well. H2K settled for the 1-for-1 trade, but Fnatic have not settled yet. Soaz wants to stop the backs. Here comes the Justice Punch, and here comes the Justice for them. Slicing Maelstrom over all of H2K. Absolutely decimate them. Nuclear's atomized, and Che is the only one to run away.
Fnatic dismantle H2K, picking up 4 clean kills and a tier 2 tower in the top lane. Fantastic play, fantastic execution, and a fantastic lead for Fnatic as they are now 6,500 gold lead over H2K.
I have to say, I did not expect Fnatic to be able to snowball it this hard. I knew if they got an early advantage, they play straight into their favor, but the way they have played this game has been sublime.
And it just comes back to the vision, right? Look at all this deep warding that Fnatic have over H2K's jungle. I was praising H2K for their ability to ward early on in the game, but you can just see how Fnatic can do just the same. H2K try to respond in a 4v5 fight without their AD carry, and you think at this point, as your H2K, we're fine. We can just disengage. They're not going to dive us. It's not a problem. So as though it's like, I'm a Galio. I'm tougher than a tower is. I'm going to go in and then Pikachu, I choose you. Multi-man Thunder onto multiple members of H2K as Reckless just cleans up the fight and allows Broxer to get 1-2.
Yeah, sometimes you've got to give kills to your jungler, you know? Just let them do a little bit. But look at these damage stacks. Nuclear, even though he wasn't in the fight for such a long time, had the most damage of any member of H2K. And once again, Fnatic start up the Rift Herald for themselves. I've said it time and time again, they're single-style superstars, but if it's working, why change it? And
you can see now how ineffective this Zed is being, because he's not been allowed to get to his core item build, he's not being allowed to move off into a side lane to go for these 1v1s. Fnatic are finding a lot of 4v4s, 5v5s, forcing H2K to fight before they're really ready. Caitlyn doesn't have her item spike. Zed is not a really effective team fighter, and yes, you have the Rumble, but Rumble is so far behind that his contribution is not significant enough to sway things in the favor of H2K.
H2K have the opportunity to take a 5v4 fight here if they pull the trigger. They haven't done it. Reckless was off in the top lane, pushing up the waves once again, something we've seen time and time again from Fnatic. And H2K have just been rocked to their very core by this Fnatic lineup. We said they're a team that does all things well, but at the moment you need someone to do something great. And H2K have yet to show us that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's almost becoming a repetition for H2K, right? Expectations from us here on the analyst desk, the casters, it's always, we have a lot of hopes for H2K. Like, you go back and you watch their VoDs and you're like, these guys are doing everything right. Like, sure, they threw a Baron, but that wasn't necessarily the throw at Baron. It was just the way in which, under high pressure situations, I do feel like H2K collapse. Their communication breaks down and they're not very good at reacting in the moment, whereas Fnatic, they thrive in chaos.
Jez is going to jump straight on his caps as well. There's just nothing you can do as an AD carry.
Nope. Arguably, a little overextended. Don't have enough vision playing against the Galio, but you can also look at it from the bright side for Fnatic, where they found a great pick in the middle lane. Now they're poised to take a Baron if they want.
The thing I love actually as well about the Fnatic lineup is because Camille can use Hextech Ultimatum, even if someone has flash, can't get away. Here's the equalizer down. Jankos going to get taken low. Jez is there as well. Joined from the side of the fight, Beverman is there. Now Fnatic get one death. H2K pick up a kill as Fnatic try to push for that second tower.
Now, bear in mind, without the Galio ulti being there to keep Jez's alive, and without the ultimate available from Jez's either, that was a good response from H2K, finding themselves a pick. Fnatic, they got a little bit too overzealous. They stayed a little bit too long, did not respect the picking power and the position that H2K were in to be able to get themselves a return kill, which did result in the loss of Jez's life. And now, H2K, they're poised to take down this mid-tier 1. Caps and Brox are hanging around to try and defend.
Beverman will tank up a couple of tower shots, so as once again, as soon as he flanks, H2K have to retreat. They just can't fight up against this massive Gargoyle, a 7,000 gold lead for them still. And this Fnatic looks so different to the Fnatic we saw last week. It's strange that they can have basically the same composition, but be able to enact it so much better this week.
And you can see here, once the minion wave is gone, Jez should really have been underneath the tower. Jankos even kicks away Broxer just to secure that the damage is gone. And Odo zones the 3 members away so they can't help Jez's as he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. So, a little unfortunate there for Jez's, but H2K, they are able to find something back. But backtracking to what you said, I feel like something we have to recognize is that in Game 1 versus Roccat, it did look very classic Fnatic, right? Like, it was very convincing. And in Game 2, I think the biggest criticism I had was that they were just a little bit too afraid to pull the trigger. They showed too much respect to their opponent. They got a really good early lead, and then they didn't properly use it. And now what we're seeing is they still have that respect, but they are not afraid to pull the trigger. They are just moving forward all the time, and they are not taking their foot off that pedal.
And because they have multiple sources that can pull the trigger as well, last week, Jez was playing Zyra for a couple of those games, and that meant that he wasn't able to be an engaged tool, whereas here he's got the Camille, got the Hextech Ultimatum, which guarantees a Galio ult, basically. It makes it a lot easier for you. Fnatic will pull the Rift Herald down towards the bottom lane. It's going to be there. It's a big chunk. That's a lot of damage coming out. I think that may have been an auto attack or something as well. I was going to say crit from Caps, but he wasn't even there, so it probably wasn't. Nope. Still a big chunk. Fnatic going to push towards the inhibitor in this bottom lane. They've got Caps splitting towards mid, and H2K are trying to anti-siege. Harold jumps in once again. There's a bit of damage coming out. Soaz onto Jankos. Caps has joined the fray as well, but H2K for the time being will be able to defend. Can they defend the next wave as Fnatic push forward once again? Bebin off towards the side, onto Jez as Caps just trying to get those Sheen procs down. Fnatic will retreat for the time being. They did get about half that tower's health.
So Fnatic now lead 6 towers to 1. Their pressure has been unrelenting. I'm a little surprised that they haven't looked to play around the Baron. They've actually gone for the towers, simply using pressure from the side lanes. And I just, again, want to emphasize, look at the vision here from Fnatic. Top side of the map, you can see 3 wards littered around the top jungle. They had that wave pushing in towards H2K as well, and they have 2 control wards in the bottom half of H2K's jungle too, which means that taking that bottom tower was so easy. It was so cleanly done. They pushed at mid, they had top pushing, they had full vision. There was no risk at all with what Fnatic was doing right there, and that is very good League of Legends. So as much as we sit there and say, oh, the Fnatic style, right? They only have to rely on this single style. Like, you have to remember that they still have a very good understanding of the game, and their ability to just break into the base of H2K is very, very clean. Jay's
not in the best of spots here as Soaz spots it out. Caps there as well. Soaz actually in the midst of the H2K team here. He's going to jump his way away. Heroes exit indeed as Fnatic manage to escape. Just want a quick look at these items here, Vedius. 25 minutes in, Rekkles is sitting on 3 completed items. Nuclear only has 2 of his own and doesn't even have parts of that 3rd item.
Yeah, kind of sucks for H2K. Definitely having an underfed Caitlyn is a rough place to be, and a fed Rekkles is also definitely not who you want to be going up against. So H2K, they're definitely backed against the wall, and when you look at their composition, you have to think that it is difficult for them to find avenues back into the game. But they do have the advantage of a late game Caitlyn, a late game Rumble, and the possibility of Zed being able to one-shot a carry. But when all the damage reduction with the double exhaust, it's a little difficult to believe.
The anti-siege is great, but this is the reason Fnatic are going for the Baron, because they know those Baron-empowered minions will deal with the anti-siege coming out from H2K, and they can 2-man it. It's just Soaz and Rekkles here, and they'll be able to get that pretty easily. H2K have yet to realize Jankos actually might have a bit of an inkling as he comes across. Flash onto him, he flashes away, gets the blast cone as well to survive. Now, Baron still pressuring down onto Caps, means that Fnatic won't be able to get it for the time being. Good play by Jankos to distract Fnatic.
So Soaz trades his flash for Jankos's, and for H2K, it will keep that Baron alive for just a little bit longer. So as you rightly said, delaying the inevitable for the time being.
H2K have switched the vision in that red side as well. Yep. It's now their vision instead of Fnatic's. They've swept some of it out.
For now. That's only because Fnatic, they have to back. They just started up a Baron, they took a lot of damage. Very good opportunity for H2K to come back. So now we'll start seeing a lot more fighting around these wards. We'll start seeing both teams basically trying to say, we want control over the Baron. And to do that, we need deep vision. Otherwise, taking that Baron becomes a lot harder, because then you have Jankos coming in from the back, the possibility of a steal, a lot of risks associated with doing it blind.
I was about to regale you with the virtues of that ward that Che just placed, and then it got cleared out by Boxer. So
unlucky.
No virtues from it as soon as it gets cleared out.
The great tale of the Baron ward. I died.
The great battles of old.
The end.
This has been a pretty one-sided battle thus far, as Fnatic continue just to get their war machines rolling into the faces of H2K. H2K grouped up as a 5-man mid. Rekkles is top. See Soaz splitting down towards the bottom side. The classic 1-3-1 from Fnatic. H2K will play around this Baron. If they can clear out vision, perhaps they can pull Fnatic into having to face check it.
Now, I can confirm that Odo's TP is in fact up, which is always good. He should really be moving down to the bottom side to catch that wave. But Fnatic, they're applying pressure now in both bot lane and I believe in top 2. Without seeing the wave, I do think that that is actually slow pushing in favor of... it's actually slow pushing in favor of H2K, but there's still a tower there. Remember that 6-1 tower lead in favor of Fnatic. So they may very well go for their 2nd dragon of the game. You can see very low priority on the Cloud Drake, as it is 27 minutes into the game at this point. Misfits had already claimed 4 dragons. So slight shift in priority depending on the Drake.
I've been realizing more and more, Vedius, how my life outside of League of Legends is reflected in my life in League of Legends. Because I've been watching Game of Thrones, building up to Season 7, of course, which is coming out relatively soon. And
Yeah.
I realized how much EULCS is like a Game of Thrones at the moment.
Really?
As soon as we get a king, as soon as G2 rise to the front, stabbed in the back. As soon as Fnatic rise to the front, beaten by Rocket. As soon as UOL rise to the front, stabbed in the back as well. It's just time after time, whoever is king, I wouldn't want to sit on that throne.
So basically what you're saying is that whoever leads in European LCS is next on the chopping block.
They are the Starks.
They are the stars.
Oh, spoilers, sorry guys. Oops. Anyway, H2K gonna get vision around this Baron once again. Reckless actually might be looking to blast cone over here. Jesus is on his way as well. They might catch out Che because Che does not realize this. Jumps across, Jez is gonna jump in. Here's the TP as well. The setup from Fnatic is absolutely gorgeous. Che's dead, Reckless is dominating, and Fnatic are 11-3 up.
Always comes back to the vision. Look at the wards that Fnatic have in H2K's jungle. Che is warding alone. Where's your ward, buddy? You need that wingman when trying to claim control. And without it, that means you lose your support, it means you lose your wards, and you could very well lose the Baron if you're H2K.
EULCS no longer the first blood king, might be looking for a smite, still gets caught up in the slicing. Maelstrom though kicks them away. Is he gonna jump the wall? Not today, say Fnatic. Equalizer does come down, but Boxer still has smite, should be an easy enough secure for him. There we go. Fnatic looking for a bit more of a chase. Nucleus down to half, has to flash. Odo flashes the wall, but straight into Caps' face. Caps says, hello Odo, I want this fight. Looking for the clap, Odo goes golden, but not for long as Fnatic clean up the fight.
Fnatic get themselves the Baron, they get themselves the kills, and they get the cheers of the crowd as they now have everything that they need to walk into the base of H2K.
This is exactly the Fnatic that their fans wanted to see. Absolutely devastating, absolutely dominating, and they're looking for the win.
H2K backs against the walls. Very early on, Fnatic had control. They did not let go of it, and they're going to take game one.
They're looking for the Nexus Towers. Forbidden is here trying to sway them. Che up as well as EULCS, but the Nexus Towers have just fallen. Fnatic say, what's the king to a god? They're going to reign supreme once again as they take game one over H2K.
Very clean game overall from Fnatic. The only real mistake was Jez getting caught out in that mid lane tower siege, but aside from that, I feel like that it's very difficult for Fnatic to be criticized. They knew they needed to make a play down in the bottom lane. They saw a window. Soaz played that bottom lane trade beautifully, baiting H2K in, overstaying. Fnatic get themselves 3 very swift kills. Boom, game is theirs. They move top, solo kill mid. They have full control over H2K's jungle, and it's just step by step by step. 30-minute game, clean play.
15 kills to 3 at the end of the game as well. Not much they gave away at all throughout that entire game one. And you can see H2K and Prolly debating what you do here. Like, how can you take this style away from Fnatic? Is it just too ingrained in their blood? Fnatic do get off to a great start in the series with a powerful performance. Tell us more about their win, Shocks.
Well, yeah, I would love to know it. He's got that look in his eye, probably.
Blaming someone for this pick and ban face. Like, Nuclear, was that you? You gave them cannon?
He's like,
And
he
Galio?
can't believe what Fnatic drafted and how they played. Like, skirmished well early. What team is this?
Broxer gang top lane, level 4. I've never seen that before.
Quelle surprise. All right, let's talk about the picks and bans on a more serious note, because now it's all good and easy to say, well, obviously it was bad, but Henning, what did you think when you saw the picks come out? I know the Galio was a big point of contention between you guys.
Yeah, Fnatic pretty much got what they wanted here across the board. I mean, Shen got banned out, but other than that, Fnatic really... I mean, this is what they wanted. I think Lee Sin was a good pick for Jen because he was trying to set up for some good plays early, so if he could have got snowballing there, that could have been a potential way for H2K to come back, but in the end, Fnatic just played their style.
How do you think in H2K's mind did the Zed fit into their composition, or did it fit into their game plan?
I think it's a snowball pick in the mid lane, and just going for the kill pressure in mid after level 6, there are a few picks that gives you as much kill pressure onto a Corki as Zed, even though it will get pushed in early. So I think that's what you're going for. And if you're able to get snowballing, you can go to a side lane, and there's no one really on Fnatic that can contest him in a 1 versus 1 if he gets snowballing. But as we saw, that didn't happen, and I think I barely saw Vivian in a side lane through the whole game.
No.
I hated this Zed so much in this draft.
Everything was open.
I think it made it so. I think H2K just didn't do themselves any favors in this draft here. first ban phase where they do Elise, Shen, Thresh, I'm all about the Elise and Shen bans. I don't think you need to ban Thresh when you're trying to trade things for like an enemy cannon. That's why they leave the cannon open, because they're trying to bait Fnatic to first pick it. So when they don't actually remove being in, like, say, the Kha'Zix, and you actually eliminate Brox's champion pool because you get rid of Elise, Lee Sin, and Kha'Zix because you pick Lee Sin yourself, he needs to then normally go Ivern, where he's not able to have the same early pressure we see so often from Broxah that is super important in Fnatic's game plan. They don't do that, okay, fair enough. Then they do not take Galio either on the side of H2K. And I'm glad you tweeted it, because it means that I said this before the game.
You absolutely did.
It's just based, it's not just based
You
on
said
the
it
result.
when the minute the cannon got picked, oh, they should go for Galio.
It's just Source's best champions with cannon is Shen and then Galio. Because Galio's ulti is kind of a little bit like the Shen in the sense.
Maybe
Like
Shen ulti?
Yeah, kind of like it's not as global, but you also have some damage reduction on the target and you can join the
Same
fight.
idea.
Same idea, roughly. And Zed is, and Galio, sorry, is just so good against Zed.
Probably
So
should
good
just be
against Zed.
watching this segment.
I just feel like this draft from H2K needed to be executed perfectly, especially the Zed, for it to work. Because Zed, while you talk about he can 1v1 people, most of them can self-peel here. Stealth from a Kha'Zix, ulti from a cannon.
Pesky fly.
There's a fly flying around as well. Also agrees with everything you're saying here.
Yeah.
And then Galio ulti is just also such a huge counter to Zed ulti, because you can always join where he's going on 1v1 with damage reduction. So it's just, they banned Gragas over Galio. Boom.
I was just going to mention that post-nerf Endurance Ring Gragas, top lane really nerfed, so banning that out when Kha'Zix was already picked. So like targeting top lane Gragas over Galio, that's so weird. And Quirky also worked out really well for Fnatic here, gotta say that.
Well,
so.
it did. It worked out great in the
Yeah.
end. And then you think, all right, as you say, maybe if they play the composition absolutely to a T, that'll all work out and the Zed will start snowballing and that'll all be great. But it went all Fnatic's way, and it went typically Fnatic's way as well, as we've seen it in so many of these games. So let's take a look at the very first replay where in the bottom lane, and it's almost announced that they're going to come and do this, right, Fnatic? And it happens.
Yeah, I think when Jankas jumps in here, he thinks that Reckless and Jesus has gone top lane to lane swap, but they show up here in the bottom lane and just bursts down Jankas immediately. After this, Fnatic also gets first tower with a good flash from Soas here and a 3k gold lead as soon as this fight's over.
And this is just my favorite thing about Fnatic, is they play these really mobile champions, and they're just so good at playing these skirmishes in the early to mid game. When you make one mistake against them, you can just see how every single member there is on the same page. We're gonna dive forward, we're gonna go for these kills. We know the range we can close, you know, with Camille E, with jumps in, a flash from Galio with Taunton. They execute that so well right after that little jump in from Jankas. And then the game is basically just Fnatic's, because their composition is already better, and that perfect execution from H2K, it's gone.
Yeah, and then they have their foot on the gas pedal and they don't let up. This is what Fnatic does when they get that advantage, Henning. They just keep making those plays and they keep making those engages.
Yeah, they're so good at forcing the fights. They just give them a little finger and they'll take the whole hand. I mean, you can make things happen out of nothing. As I think we have another replay coming up here, as they just keep doing the same thing later on towards the game. Here we see how good of a champion Camille is into the set as well. We know Fibivin on this set has so much mobility, but when you have the Hextech ultimatum on top of you, there's not much you can do, and Soas coming in on the Galio to counter out the set ulti as well.
And this is just like in the quarterfinal in spring, where now, if you look at the minimap, you can actually see Caitlyn wasn't even nearby. She was running from base, and H2K still opted into this fight after Fibivin had actually already disengaged. He got out, he was somewhat safe. They didn't have to go for the TP with Oda Ande, but H2K as a team, they just really struggle with their communication when it's very hectic games. And they gotta make, you know, decisive moves. They don't then say, stop guys, wait, we don't actually need to TP here. Cancel TP, get out, Caitlyn is not there. They fully commit and they lose another fight and they just get further behind.
Snap decision-making seems to be a problem.
Right.
And Henning, before the game, you said, well, if there's any team that I trust in to have prepared something and to have Fnatic figured out if they go for the same plan, it's H2K. So how kind of heartbreaking must it be for them that they're losing exactly the same way that they did some months ago in the playoffs, when actually it should be a totally different match?
Yeah, they knew exactly what was coming. I think that they showed that they had some sort of a plan in the early game. We did see the bottom lane tower taking a lot of damage, so the Lulu and the Caitlyn a good pushing lane, but also was going to scale well into the later game. So if we're able to get first tower there with a push, then maybe lane swap top and just avoid the dual lane of Reckless and Jessus, eventually that's going to be able to be a good dual lane in the later stages, but got punished there when they tried to go for the tower.
Yeah, that's the tough thing. Like, we could see the idea they were trying to do with the draft, you know, put Lulukade mid to push in mid, have Zed trying to get a 1v1 side lane away from the Galio, so he couldn't join with ulti. But it's just so hard to execute that draft.
Well, yeah, and my question maybe is, we're like tunneling on, oh, it's exactly the same thing that they fall to, but is it maybe Fnatic that is just better than they were even then? And or H2K knew that they could beat them if they were at the same level that they were 2 months ago.
I mean, it might just be exactly as 2 months ago, where it just seems like Fnatic, their play style is just extremely good against H2K specifically as a team. Because again, Fnatic shot calling in these early to mid game fights is very clean. They know exactly what to do and they're all on the same page. And H2K seems to be just be so hectic, and they end up then committing to things they didn't actually want to commit to. They get lost in a bad fight or a bad gank, and they just fall really far behind.
You changing your vote yet?
I mean, after watching this, I almost have to go for Fnatic, but I really believe H2K can bring this back and maybe go 3 games, but it's going to be a different kind of draft.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's see H2K bring out some adaptations, so hopefully we get 3 fantastic games. But for now, Fnatic, they are 1 win away from taking down H2K, and Game 2 is right around the corner.
If I jump in the water, do you jump as well?
Yes, I will help you. If you jump into caps, I will be there for you with my W, Iron Safeguard.
Today, in Berlin, we see H2K match their wits against Fnatic. Boxer looking for his prey. Jump away, jump back in. Odo is going to be first blood to Fnatic.
I can go.
I'll drop back and come back.
Nice. Comes the justice for them, slicing Maelstrom over all of H2K. Absolutely decimate them. Nuclear's atomized, and Che is the only one to run away. What's the king to a god? They're going to reign supreme once again as they take game 1 over H2K.